I want to also give big kudos to our leadoff hitter of the morning, Tad Dritz of Ariel Re. He's going to be doing unlocking sustainable solutions with performance insurance. And as a longtime 4-month veteran of Ariel Re, I know he's got a lot to tell you, but it's really that he's a 20-year veteran of the space, and we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Robert, and thank you, Peter, and everybody who organized this event. I have what I hope you find it is an interesting talk about technology performance insurance. Insurance can be maybe a little bit of a boring topic, but I'm going to try to keep it lively here. So this is how we get going, I guess. So I'm going to start by telling you a bit about me. So that's me. I'm a professional engineer. I have an MBA. My journey started in Athens, Ohio at Ohio University, where I studied chemical engineering. After that, I worked in the oil and gas industry for 6 years. During my time in New Orleans, Kazakhstan, and in Mexico, I learned a lot about what it takes to execute large-scale energy projects, but I also saw a lot of unwise use of our natural resources. This included gas flaring, which has been covered, I think, pretty extensively here. So it's better to see these flares lit than unlit, but it's still an incredible waste of our natural resources. And this natural gas and other low-value products are simply burned off so the oil can flow. The amount of flared gas, it's been compared to the energy use of different countries, Germany, Argentina, countries of that size, is how much gas is burned off, and it's extremely underreported. So this is an incredible waste of our natural resources. I saw other questionable environmental practices in the oil and gas industry, and it really got me reading and thinking about what they called sustainable development back then, as well as industrial ecology, and it set me on a new career path. After reading and studying, I went on to University of Michigan to their corporate environmental management program, which is called the Herb Institute today. This got me into clean technologies, and I've been working in clean technologies since 2002. A couple of the companies are up there as well. I worked both inside companies and as a consultant, helping just dozens of different technologies in the biofuel space, energy storage, advanced hydropower, just really across the board, helped advance those technologies and commercialize some of them. My experience is also in hydrogen and fuel cells, which I think is going to play a very key role in the future here. In parallel to my professional career, I also helped found and for a decade led Green Columbus, which is a nonprofit organization in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio. I mentioned this, put it in here pretty briefly, is that certainly business and finance has an incredible role to play that's a great lever for enacting change, but there are things that fall outside the business and finance space in protecting our natural environment, and I think the nonprofit sector has an important role to play. One of the important things that Green Columbus does is we put on the annual Earth Day event in Columbus, which hosts the largest volunteer turnout for Earth Day anywhere on Earth. And now, for the last 4 months, as Robert said, I've been in the insurance business. All right, so here's Ariel Re. Let me tell you about our company a little bit. We're the premier manager of reinsurance risk. This is the bulk of our business, but it's not the clean energy side, which I'll explain in a second here. We're a syndicate of Lloyd's of London, which is a 350-year-old insurance marketplace. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. They started insuring things back when Pirates of the Caribbean was an actual risk and not a Disney franchise. We're backed by some of the biggest names in the insurance business and business in general, and we're A-rated, so we're an investment-grade insurer. So I'm part of the clean energy team. The clean energy team, like I said, most of the Ariel Re is focused on reinsurance, mainly in the catastrophe space, but our clean energy team is really extraordinary. It's headed by Jan Napiorkowski. I hope I pronounced his name correctly. He's my boss. But he truly pioneered this category of insurance, first at Munich Re and now today at Ariel Re. Not only do we have insurance expertise, but we also have a lot of technical expertise. So as I mentioned, I'm a professional engineer. We have Dr. Frank Shelley and Jamie Daggett and others on our team have a lot of technical expertise, which is really important to understand the intricacies and be able to assess the risk and underwrite these, at times, very complex policies. We have a fantastic track record, especially in the solar, where we've insured over 100 gigawatts of solar power. So this started off with insuring solar projects, and now we're insuring the solar manufacturers. All right, but now to talk about insurance's role in helping the world's transition to clean energy. So net zero is the goal, and just when or how soon, I guess, is the question. In a recent report, the International Energy Agency puts the date at 2050. To get to this date, we need to invest an incredible amount of money, and a lot of it in technologies that are not currently on the market. So according to these graphs, somewhere around 45% needs to come into new solutions, and that bottom chart shows how much money needs to be spent every year. It's a little bit hard to read, but the bottom line is about $100 trillion needs to be invested between now and 2050 for us to reach net zero. That's right, $100 trillion. So that can't all come from VCs and private equity firms. Yes, it's just too much money, right? So we need to get some of this money from banks, and actually we have to get it from low-cost providers. The capital intensity of a lot of projects, especially like a biofuels project is a good example, they can cost 5 times, 10 times as much as an oil refinery on a normalized per barrel basis. So the capital cost, with extreme capital costs like that, sometimes these projects can still be viable because they use lower cost feedstocks, they get a premium for their product, they qualify for incentives like low carbon fuel standards, but they cannot absorb higher capital cost when, the higher cost of capital, excuse me, when your capital cost is so high. So to get that lower cost capital, mainly loans, into these projects, the risk has to be managed. And there's a number of key risks, and I'm just going to summarize this really quickly. This is an incredible topic that probably we could talk about for days here. But managing the risk for a new technology introduction into the marketplace, there's known strategies for doing this. The first one, and as a consultant I would preach this all the time, is to do it in a rational manner. Go from pilots to demos to commercial reference plants and then on to full commercialization. I call this moving slow to move fast. And when some of these critical steps are missed, it can lead to catastrophic failures that can take an otherwise promising technology and put it in the dustbin. Another great strategy for these projects is work with creditworthy partners. So this is feedstock suppliers, these are off-takers, these are your EPC firms. If they're capable, creditworthy, that removes a lot of risk from the project. But there's one risk that's very difficult to remove, and that's that technology risk. There is a lot of fear that when you go from a smaller scale project to a larger scale project, things are going to go wrong, and they can go very wrong where the debt holders are not going to get their loans repaid. So that's where our insurance products step in here. So this graph shows an example of a depreciation, of a degrading asset, such as a solar field, lithium-ion battery storage, a fuel cell. All these things degrade over time as you use them. Some of them, like lithium-ion battery storage, can be augmented, where you can put in new batteries to get the capacity back up. But just for simplicity, I'm showing just the degradation curve here. So the red line on top would be the expected output from the project. The orange line would be the insured attachment level, which is going to be a percentage of the output. And the insurance policy will be that if the actual output ever falls below that attachment level, then the project would be compensated for the shortfall. That shortfall would allow them to make the debt payments, thus removing that technology risk that the banks fear and allowing them, encouraging them to put money into these projects. So, and although that insurance is our product that we're selling, we like to consider ourselves as partners to the project developers that are putting these projects together, and that we can assist at kind of nearly every step of the way. So at the planning phases, we help with risk assessment. So that's what we do, and we're going to price those policies. And as we're pricing those policies, we are going to come across things that, hey, if you change this, if you fix that, things could be different here, and we can provide that advice as we move along. We've already talked about the essential role that insurance can play in the financial close, so this allows financing to come into these projects, and it enables a lower cost of capital, which will make these projects more viable and the products that they make more viable in the marketplace. At startup, which tends to be the riskiest part for any of these projects. So starting up even an oil refinery, even a chemical process that has been done many times can be very risky, very problematic. We offer a startup repair cover. So this goes from mechanical completion of the plant until it hits its performance test. And there's going to be a deductible on here. We're only covering kind of catastrophic failures, but this sort of insurance can really get these projects over the hump and up to their target production capacity. And then in operations, we have long-term, uncancelable policies that ensure that those debt payments are made and ensure that project can be a success and recover from any problems, can be economically viable as it recovers from any problems. So we do this for a very wide range of different technologies. So solar is our history, but looking forward, we're working with energy storage, with biofuels, someday with e-fuels, plastic chemical recycling, hydrogen and fuel cells, carbon capture and storage, really across the board for clean energy technologies, we offer this performance insurance. So that is what I got, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Yeah.
Questions?
Over there.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Two quick questions. One, when you said we need to invest $100 trillion by 2050, is that a global number or a U.S. only number?
That was a global number.
Thank you. I was hoping to hear that.
It was the International Energy Agency.
Okay,
so,
that's
yeah.
what I thought. And then yesterday, a concept got brought up a few times about redefining what risk looks like when talking about this field. I'm curious your take on re-understanding risk not only being a financial thing, but taking risk from a climate perspective. Do you think there are any conversations in the insurance sphere towards this around, yeah, there might be hesitancy for taking on these technologies because of a financial aspect, but what about a sea level rise or a drought risk or things that could affect a larger portion of the population?
Yeah, so actually I had a conversation about this yesterday, about how Ariel Re is both in the catastrophe reinsurance business and in the clean energy business, right? So they're kind of maybe hedges against one another there, is that the clean energy will reduce our carbon output, should hopefully reduce the volatility in the climate, right? So we typically don't look at kind of those bigger pictures. You know, we're focused a bit more on the project itself. We want to make these projects a success, figuring that if more projects that happen, more clean energies that get implemented, the overall impact is going to be good. So I like your strategic thinking there, but our products are a bit more focused.
Hi, Jean-Marc O'Brien, Arter Capital. Could you discuss a little bit what seems to be a new and growing sector of parametric insurance applied to climate, in particular ag, and even the renewables? I've seen a couple of funds that have started recently, and they seem to be taking off, and how much reinsurers are focused on parametric?
Yeah, so I cannot speak about that, sadly. Like I said, I'm pretty new to the insurance business here, so kind of learning what I'm doing has sucked up most of my time. It sounds like an important issue, but I cannot speak intelligently to it.
Any other questions at the back? Actually, I have one.
Yeah.
Do you use some tools to help you with your analysis, like First Street, Flood Mapper, and things like that?
So we have collected a bunch of tools, actually. So we have seen, I think, over the past 7 years that this has been at Ariel Re, probably 200, 250 different projects in the clean energy space. So, we build tools to evaluate them against one another. The proprietary tools that we use for modeling projects and modeling risk. So we don't use those kind of available like satellite tools and things like that. Again, we're more focused specifically on these projects. If a project was on the coast, and that was a potential insurance concern, it wouldn't be covered by the insurance that we offer. We're looking very specifically at the technology, and the perils that we insure are focused very specifically on those technologies, and that makes our products affordable. If we try to cover every risk, the price could really go through the roof.
Hi, Joel Colville with Wield & Co. 2 questions. Geographically open to underwriting the entire world, or specifically the GCC?
Yeah, so we're open to underwriting anywhere in the world. But most of the projects tend to be in Southeast Asia, Europe, and the United States.
Okay, fantastic. Last question. How did a guy from Columbus, Ohio get to Ann Arbor and make it out alive?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I can never wear my Michigan shirt in my hometown. But they had that great program, that joint degree program, and that's what did it for me. Not to get too personal here, but when I was looking to go to graduate school, I didn't even consider Michigan at first because of the rivalry. And then when I read the description of the Corporate Environmental Management Program, which is the Urban Institute today, it could have been taken from the essays that I had written to other schools, and it was just a perfect fit for me.
And that's that kind of, not just Ohio and Michigan, but now, hydrocarbons into clean energy. So that's all the transitions
right.
that we need.
Thank you. David Wield of Wield & Co. Do you have a checklist that you apply to different projects to try and drive them to a place where they're more efficiently insurable?
I don't think we have one specific checklist, but I think that's a good idea. We're trying to get more processes in place. A lot of it's kind of been hand-built, and we still need to do that because these are bespoke policies that we're doing. Every project is unique in its own way, but we're trying to standardize more and more and make it so
Because I think
risks are comparable
it
to
helps
each
people
other.
when they're sponsoring projects to try and design things, or at least inform people that are check writers, about the kinds of things that you need to knock out to make something financeable, because there's so many moving parts in all these projects, right? You've got offtake intake agreements many times, like when you're dealing with biofuel plants. You're looking at the underlying credit of them, their ability to perform. I mean, you're looking at when you've got a plant up and running, is it old technology, new technology? Is it something that actually how long is it going to take to debug once it gets set up? I mean, there's just a whole litany of these things that can change the IRR on.
Absolutely, yeah. So we consider all of those things. Certainly, feedstock agreements, the specifications of them need to match what was tested in the demo plant and things like that. So, we do consider all of that. I don't think we have it quite formalized into a checklist, but that's a good idea.
So there's about 1 minute left. I wanted to just ask to focus a little bit more back on the tech performance risk product. Kind of, is there a scope or size threshold or some of those things? Because just from an industry perspective, for a lot of the newer technologies that you mentioned, they need a demonstration plan or they need something that's not quite up to scale yet. So can you comment some more on thresholds or things that you look for to at least begin considering them?
Yeah, so typically we do not consider demonstration plants. We expect that to be investor funded. So probably the smallest project size that could make sense for any of our projects has got to be at least probably $10 million, maybe $20 million for a project.
Any last questions?
But we can group them together. So a lot of times there's modular technologies out there, and they consider one project maybe over a wide distributed area.
Any other questions? Any last words for, or not last words, that's not great. Final comment?
I hope these aren't my last words, but I do want to thank Jason in his presentation yesterday. That I think he really teed it up. I wish I would have spoken directly after him because he was calling for insurance, and we have it. It's maybe not as simple as it could be, but we're trying to improve our processes and ensure more things. Yeah. Great. Thank you all.